Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are staring at a harsh reality, one that's sinking in faster than any fan, coach, or player could have imagined. After falling to 3-5 with a deflating loss to the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football, their season is hanging by a thread, and the optimism that once surrounded this team has vanished almost overnight. What started as a year filled with hope, with fans dreaming of playoff football and a fresh start under new leadership, has now devolved into a season defined by frustration, missed opportunities, and mounting injuries. The Commanders are running out of time to turn their nightmare season around, and at this point, even the team's goals for the year might have to change drastically. It's no longer about chasing a wild-card berth. It's about survival, evaluation, and maybe acceptance that this year just isn't their year. When the season kicked off, Washington had a lot of buzz around them. Last year's shocking run gave the fan base something to believe in. They were scrappy, they were fast, they were fearless. Jayden Daniels was supposed to be the spark, the young quarterback who could finally bring energy and consistency to a franchise that's been searching for stability for decades. The Commanders made off-season moves that suggested they were serious about taking the next step. They beefed up the offensive line, added playmakers on both sides of the ball, and preached a new culture built on discipline and accountability. But now, halfway through the year, those words feel hollow. The Commanders look slow, uninspired, and, most concerning of all, lost. The Monday night loss to the Chiefs wasn't just another mark in the loss column. It felt like a turning point. Kansas City didn't just beat Washington, they exposed them. Every weakness the Commanders had been trying to hide throughout the first half of the season came crashing down under the bright primetime lights. The defense, once seen as the team's strength, couldn't contain Patrick Mahomes. The offense, already struggling without its key players, looked stagnant and predictable. And when you combine all that with the mounting injury list, it's not hard to see why this team is spiraling. Let's be honest. The schedule doesn't get any easier from here. If this was supposed to be the easier part of the season, the Commanders failed their test miserably. Losing to the Atlanta Falcons and Chicago Bears, two teams they were expected to beat, hurt more than anyone wants to admit. Those were games they needed to win to stay alive in the playoff hunt, and they let both slip through their fingers. If they had handled their business, they'd be sitting at 5-3 right now instead of 3-5, still very much in the mix. But instead, they've shown that they're a flawed team that can't play a full 4 quarters of consistent football. The Commanders have talent, sure, but talent doesn't win you games when the execution just isn't there. Now, sitting at 13th in the NFC standings, the Commanders are dangerously close to seeing their season officially slip away. They've already piled up 4 NFC losses, the second most in the entire conference, and that's a killer when it comes to tiebreakers. The next 2 games are do or die. They'll face the Seattle Seahawks and Detroit Lions, both playoff-caliber teams that won't show any mercy. Lose those, and Washington will essentially have to win out just to have a chance at making the postseason. And realistically, does anyone believe this team can sweep the final stretch of the season? Not the way they've been playing. The NFC is loaded this year, and the Commanders have done themselves no favors. The only plausible route to the playoffs would be through the NFC East, but that's a mountain that looks nearly impossible to climb. They'd have to go on a historic run, winning all their final divisional matchups, and even then, it might not be enough. Their last 4 games are all NFC East showdowns, which could either make or break whatever's left of this season. But given how this team has been performing, 2 straight blowout losses by 21+ points, including an embarrassing one to the Cowboys, it's hard to see them pulling off a miracle. Injuries have been a major part of this team's downfall. At some point, you start to wonder if the Commanders are cursed. Every week, another player goes down, and the roster just can't catch a break. Jayden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, arguably the 2 most important players on offense, have barely been on the field together this year. Daniels' dual-threat ability was supposed to revolutionize the offense, but he's been in and out of the lineup with multiple injuries, and every time he seems ready to return, something else goes wrong. The chemistry he's supposed to be building with McLaurin, with rookie sensation Keon Coleman, and with tight end Logan Thomas simply hasn't had the chance to develop. The defensive side hasn't been spared either. Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, and Will Harris have all gone down with serious injuries, leaving massive holes in the rotation. The defense, once the team's calling card, now looks tired and disorganized. When your depth is tested every week, eventually the cracks start to show, and that's exactly what's happening. The injuries aren't just hurting the Commanders physically, they're affecting the team's identity. And then came another blow. Laramie Tunsil, one of the few bright spots on the offensive line, suffered a hamstring injury against the Chiefs. Add that to Daniels' lingering hamstring issue, and you've got a recipe for disaster. At this point, you have to start asking some tough questions. Should the Commanders even risk bringing Daniels back too soon? Should they prioritize protecting their young quarterback for the long term, or keep trying to win games that might not mean anything in the grand scheme of things? The safe answer, the smart answer, might be to play it cautious. There's no point in risking your franchise quarterback's health for a season that's slipping away. If the Commanders are being honest with themselves, the focus now has to shift toward the future. That's not an easy pill to swallow, especially for fans who were expecting so much more after last year's breakthrough. But sometimes, the hardest part of a rebuild is knowing when to stop pushing and start planning. With the trade deadline approaching, Washington has a decision to make. Do they double down and chase an improbable playoff run, or do they face reality and start selling pieces to build for the future? They don't have a ton of trade assets, but there are some interesting names that could attract attention. Defensive tackle Darren Payne, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, wide receiver Noah Igbenegune, and even offensive lineman Brandon Coleman could all be candidates to move if the Commanders decide to cash in. It's not an easy call, but it's one they'll have to make soon. With only 6 draft picks heading into next year, they need to find ways to restock and retool this roster. The franchise has been stuck in mediocrity for too long. It's time to start thinking long-term instead of short-term patches. The irony of this situation is that the Commanders actually looked like they were turning a corner not too long ago. They had a promising young quarterback, a dynamic receiving core, and a defense that could hang with anyone on their best day. But football is cruel, and this league doesn't wait for anyone. Momentum is fragile. Confidence evaporates quickly. One bad loss turns into two turns into a skid, and suddenly the locker room starts asking questions that no one has answers for. You can sense it now. The frustration, the fatigue, the feeling of here we go again. If you're a Commanders fan, it's understandable to feel deflated. You've seen this story before. The flashes of hope, the talk of change, the early excitement. And then, somehow, it all falls apart. But there's still a silver lining here, even if it's hard to see. The pieces are there for this team to rebound. Daniels, if healthy, still has all the tools to be special. McLaurin is an elite receiver who just needs consistency at quarterback. The defense, when at full strength, can still be a force. What the Commanders need now is direction, identity, and patience, something that's been in short supply for far too long. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. All right, folks, buckle up, because what's happening right now in the NFL is nothing short of insane. We're talking about a story that's shaking the entire league to its core, something that might go down as one of the most controversial and unprecedented moments in modern football history. So here's the deal. The game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Washington Commanders, yeah, that game that had everyone buzzing, has officially been annulled due to what insiders are calling gravely serious irregularities. And when I say serious, I mean the kind of thing that's got executives scrambling, lawyers on the phone, and players refusing to comment. You can feel the tension all over social media. It's wild. Now, first off, let's get this straight. Annulled games in the NFL are almost unheard of. This doesn't happen. You might see a game postponed due to weather, or maybe replayed because of a clock malfunction or something minor, but an annulment? That's a nuclear-level decision. It means the league basically hit the reset button, pretending that game never even existed. The records, the stats, the touchdowns, poof, gone. And the big question that everyone's asking right now is, what the hell happened out there that was so bad the league had to wipe it from existence? From what's being whispered behind the scenes, this wasn't just a minor officiating error or a botched review. No. This was something deeper, something systemic. Multiple sources are talking about potential breaches of league protocol, accusations of unauthorized communications, and even claims of outside interference with the officiating process. Some insiders are hinting at irregularities with the play-calling system, things like signals being intercepted or manipulated. If that's true, then we're talking about a level of scandal that could make Spygate look like a playground dispute. What's blowing everyone's mind is how fast the NFL moved. Usually, the league takes its sweet time investigating these kinds of things. Weeks, sometimes months. But this time, boom. Within hours, the word came down. The game is null and void. Players were reportedly informed before even leaving the stadium. Some said they found out through their agents. Others, apparently, were told directly by team executives who looked visibly shaken. Think about that for a second. These are grown men who've seen it all in football, standing there in disbelief as they're told that everything they just fought for on that field doesn't count anymore. And you can imagine how fans reacted. Chiefs Kingdom and Commanders Nation both exploded online. Some are furious, claiming that their team is being punished unfairly. Others are demanding answers, saying the league owes everyone transparency. There are already conspiracy theories swirling around Reddit and X. Everything from accusations of deliberate tampering to wild speculation about technology glitches, betting irregularities, or even outside parties hacking into communication lines. Of course, nothing's been confirmed, but when the NFL refuses to comment beyond a vague, ongoing review, people start connecting their own dots. Now, here's where things get really interesting and really messy. A few reporters close to the situation have hinted that a certain member of the officiating crew might have been suspended pending investigation. The NFL isn't naming names yet, but one of the senior refs assigned to the game apparently left the stadium under escort, avoiding the press entirely. That's not normal. Usually, even if there's controversy, refs are allowed to issue statements or at least be part of a post-game report. The silence this time is deafening. Something big went down, something the league doesn't want out, at least not yet. And the teams themselves are walking a tightrope. The Chiefs organization released a carefully worded statement saying they were aware of the league's decision and fully cooperating. Classic PR talk, but if you read between the lines, it sounds like they were blindsided. Meanwhile, sources close to the Commanders say their coaching staff was stunned by how suddenly things escalated. There's even a rumor floating that one of the Commanders' assistant coaches raised concerns during the game about unusual communication patterns through the headset system. Imagine that, noticing something off in real time, and then hours later, the game being erased from history. You couldn't script this stuff if you tried. As if that weren't enough, the players are starting to speak, but very carefully. Patrick Mahomes was reportedly seen leaving the stadium looking visibly frustrated, shaking his head, refusing to talk to reporters. Meanwhile, Commanders players were unusually quiet on social media, with some posting cryptic emojis and one even writing, "They know what happened." What does that mean? Fans are analyzing every tweet like it's a clue in some mystery novel. And to be honest, it feels like we're all in the dark right now, trying to make sense of something that makes no sense at all. The NFL's integrity has always been a point of pride, and for good reason. This is the biggest sports league in the United States, built on the foundation of fairness, transparency, and competition. But when a game gets annulled because of grave irregularities, that foundation starts to crack. People start questioning everything, from officiating standards to technology safeguards to even the influence of betting companies. Let's not forget, sports betting is more integrated with the NFL than ever before. Millions of dollars were riding on this matchup. And when you suddenly erase a result, you're not just messing with the standings. You're disrupting an entire ecosystem of bets, predictions, and payouts. You can almost hear the legal departments gearing up. There's no doubt that whatever went down, this is going to have consequences, maybe even lawsuits. Broadcasters lost ad revenue, sponsors are furious, and fans who paid for tickets are demanding refunds. The ripple effect is massive. But the one thing that keeps coming back in every insider report is that this decision wasn't taken lightly. Apparently, league officials had evidence, real, concrete evidence, that something happened which fundamentally compromised the fairness of the game. That's why the annulment came so fast. They didn't want the controversy to linger. But ironically, by acting so swiftly and saying so little, they might have just made the situation even more suspicious. And let's not ignore the human element in all this. Imagine being a rookie player who just had the best performance of his young career, maybe even scored his first touchdown, only to be told it's wiped from the record books. Imagine the emotional roller coaster of celebrating a huge divisional matchup and then learning it's gone. That's not just a statistic. That's a moment, a memory, erased. And for veterans, especially those nearing retirement, every game matters. Stats matter. Milestones matter. To have that taken away in such mysterious fashion is heartbreaking. Behind closed doors, it's said that several team owners are furious. They want answers too, because this kind of event affects everyone's reputation. The league thrives on trust between players, fans, and executives. If that trust is broken, even once, it takes years to rebuild. Some reports even suggest there might be emergency meetings scheduled between ownership groups to discuss what measures can be put in place to prevent something like this from ever happening again. Whatever this irregularity was, it's forced the NFL to confront some uncomfortable questions about its own systems. And here's the kicker. No one's ruling out the possibility that criminal investigations could follow. If there really was tampering, or if external entities were involved, the FBI could be stepping in. The stakes are that high. Remember, this isn't just about a football game. This is about a multi-billion-dollar industry and its credibility. And when money, power, and reputation collide, the truth usually takes a while to come out. But when it does, it's explosive. So right now, we're all stuck in limbo. The game's gone, the league's silent, the fans are fuming, and the players are confused. Every few hours, a new rumor surfaces, a new theory spreads, and the mystery deepens. It feels like we're watching the opening act of a massive scandal that's still unfolding. And until the NFL steps up and gives us the full story, all we can do is speculate. But one thing's for sure, whatever happened between the Chiefs and Commanders, it's going to change how the league operates from here on out. This isn't just another sports controversy. This is a wake-up call for the NFL, for its fans, and for the very concept of fairness in professional sports. The league has spent decades building an empire on trust and integrity, but one night, one game, has thrown all of that into question. And until the truth comes out, this will remain the biggest, most mysterious, and most unsettling story the NFL has faced in years. Something went terribly wrong out there, and the world is watching closely to see how deep this rabbit hole really goes. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.